Hi, Sarah here. How are you today? As well as taking responsibility for the amount of greenhouse gases we produce, we also need to take responsibility for the amount of waste we produce. I have some staggering statistics for you here. Approximately a third of all the food produced is wasted, which is a staggering amount. And although this is unethical, there's lots of people starving in the world, it also has ramifications for global warming in that when it goes into the landfill site, it produces methane gas, which is one of the gases that produce global warming. Apart from that, it's also filling up the landfill sites. Of all the plastics we have ever used, we have only recycled 9%. 12% has been incinerated, and the remaining 79% also ends up in landfill sites as litter on the beaches or on the land and in the oceans. And a staggering 10 million tons, I'll just check I've got that amount right. Yes, at least 10 million tons of plastic every year goes into the oceans. That's a rubbish truck full every minute. Approximately 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals die every year due to plastic pollution. And according to EcoWatch, we buy 20,000 drink bottles per second. That is a staggering over 1 million drink bottles every minute. So what can you do? You can recycle, you can reuse, you can compost, and you can give away. So I have 35 tips and tricks you can use to help you reduce your waste. Some people have got this down to an art and they call it zero waste, where they may produce a jam jar full of waste every year. Okay, so number one, it may be obvious, but only buy food from the supermarket that you're going to use up and buy less. The key here is not to go to supermarket shopping when you're hungry. Number two, freeze or eat leftovers the next day. 3, go through your fridge, freezer or pantry regularly so you can use foods up before the use by date. Give away, freeze or dehydrate any excess fruit and vegetables that you've grown. Support farmers markets and take your own containers with you when you go. Have a go at growing your own fruit and vegetables or herbs. It doesn't have to be huge when you start off. You can start off in a small way, even just a few little tubs and containers or hanging baskets. You can bulk buy from bins. There are specialist shops now which are just predominantly have huge bins full of grains and cereals and pulses, beans, etc. So take your own containers when you go and bulk buy because you're going to reduce your packaging. Make your own compost. Now compost needs to be a mixture of dry materials, that is cardboard, paper, things like that, and wet materials, things like food and grass clippings. What I suggest you do is actually Google safe things to compost and things you shouldn't compost, but just to give you a rough idea, you can compost fruit and veg, used bedding from rabbits, guinea pigs, gerbils, etc. You can compost hair, fingernail and toenail clippings if you want to. You can compost tea leaves, but not the tea bags itself, coffee grounds, eggshells, paper, cardboard, paper towels, nutshells, but not walnut shells. And some things you can't compost are glossy pages from a magazine, meat, dairy, fat or eggs because these encourage pests, or dog or cat feces, although hopefully nobody would actually think about putting those in their compost. Tip number 10 is to buy loose leaf tea instead of tea bags because tea bags actually contain plastic in. So loose leaf tea, you're going to be producing less waste. many products that you buy and use regularly, like toothpaste and shampoo, have tiny bits of plastic in. These are called microbeads, and these microbeads are so tiny they just get flushed into the water system. And obviously, you know, one person is not going to be much of a problem, but we're all doing it. We're all using toothpaste and shampoos, things like that. So this plastic is actually building up. So try buying eco products if you can. Eco products are better for you, better for the environment, and also tend to have eco packaging as well. So some things that you might buy regularly and not realize you can buy biodegradable ones are things like dental floss, toothbrushes, dishwash brushes, cat litter, plates and cutlery for taking out on picnics, nappies and wet wipes. Now some of these things you can get from the supermarket, but some you might actually have to go online and look at a specialist shop, an eco-friendly shop, and buy. You can also buy reusable things like bottles, cups and sandwich wraps from eco stores. Tip number 12 is to use silicone pad for cooking instead of foil or parchment paper. You can also use silicone in your fridge too. You can buy recycled paper, toilet roll, tissues and kitchen roll, etc. I think I'll just give up on my hair. Online you can buy recycled goods like sunglasses, backpacks, umbrellas, phone cases. So things made of plastic, they are actually, people have actually got plastic and recycled them and turned them into other goods, which is fantastic. Use an electric shaver instead of a disposable shaver. Stop your junk mail. When you think about it, most junk mail just ends up in the bin anyway without even being read. You might need to contact your local post office, post shop, or sometimes you can get away with just sticking a sticker on your post box that you don't want any junk mail. Take a reusable straw with you if you go out and you use straws, or you can actually buy biodegradable ones too. Read newspapers, books, magazines online rather than buying them. Take your own containers to takeaway shops. You never know, they might even give you a discount. You can donate your egg cartons to somebody who has got hens. Maybe you know somebody, or you might have to go to a farmer's market and find out somebody that you can donate them to. If you're doing some gardening and you're wanting to put some weed mat down, you can use cardboard or a thick layer of newspaper and then just put bark or stones on top of that rather than buying the plastic weed cloth. Now if you have a choice, you can buy, if you have a choice of packaging, choose glass, aluminium or steel, as long as it can be recycled, instead of plastic, because although this uses a lot of energy to actually produce it originally, it can be recycled indefinitely. Tetra Packs are also better than plastic as long as there is a designated Tetra Pak recycling facility near you. Otherwise they're just going to end up in the waste, so that's no better. If you're out and about, take your rubbish with you home and recycle or compost. Now, we are a society that likes to throw away and buy something new when it's broken or ripped. So if it's something you can repair, try repairing it rather than just throwing it away. You can use old clothes or towels as household rags or for use in your garage, etc. If you have a dog or cat shelter near you, sometimes they take old duvets, towels or bedding, things like that. So you can pop along and have a word with them, see if they want any of your old goods. Try putting things that you don't want on your front lawn with a free sign on them, and somebody might take them away. And you can also donate your old clothes or goods to a charity shop, like you might have a Salvation Army shop or something near you. Now if you look online, there are millions of creative ways you can reuse things. Now I'm not terribly creative, so I've just gone for some basic ones, but if you're creative, the world's your oyster. Absolutely fantastic things people have made from recycling goods. But some easy peasy ones here. If you take a kitchen roll and just slit it along lengthways, you can then wrap it over the bottom rung of a coat hanger. And then when you have your clothes on, take your clothes off, it doesn't have the fold line on it. So a great tip and really helpful too. If you grow your own seeds, you can take your toilet rolls, excuse me, the cardboard from your toilet rolls, just make 5 or 6 slits on the bottom, fold the tabs underneath so it makes a base, fill it up with compost, pop your seed in, and then when it germinates you actually pop the whole thing into the soil and the cardboard tube just rots down. Voila, much easier than actually using the little plastic trays, and you're not using plastic either. Now, plastic bottles make great storage containers for everything. You also use them for things like making a watering can, bird feeders. I even saw online somebody had made a fantastic boat that 2 people were sitting in and just out of plastic bottles. How creative, and it was brilliant and it worked. If you drink a lot of wine, you can take the corks, cut them along lengthways, glue them together. Somebody had made a brilliant bath mat that when you step out of the shower or the bath, you step onto this lovely cork mat that they'd made. If you have an old suitcase and you cut the top off, it makes a great bed for a dog or a cat. If you have an old baby's cot or crib with the bars on, you take one of the lengthways sides off and then it becomes a great desk. You might even be able to do this with a baby's changing table, although you might have to cut the legs off a little bit to make it a bit lower. And glass jars make great storage containers for your pantry, in the playroom or in the garage. So I hope that that's been useful. One of the most important things you can do is to buy your own metal drinks bottle. Sometimes you can buy these ones now that have 2 layers in, which means that it keeps your drink really cold for a long period or hot for a long period. So they're great, and also you're just going to keep reusing them. Buy your own travel mug if you go to coffee shops, and often they'll give you a discount actually if you take your own coffee travel mug. And lastly, if you tend to go out at lunchtime from work and buy sandwiches, or kids at school, take your own sandwiches and wrap them in beeswax wraps, or you can, if you're going to use the Ziploc plastic ones, just keep washing them out and reusing them. You don't have to keep throwing them away after a single use. Now lastly, the June the 5th is World Environment Day, so you could set yourself a challenge. How about a challenge of a zero waste day, or even a zero waste week? So this needs planning ahead. You need to plan ahead what you're going to buy at the supermarket, so when you're using it in that day or that week, you can reuse, recycle or compost the packaging. Another challenge you could set yourself is to have a time period, maybe a week or 2 weeks or even a month, where you don't buy anything apart from bread, milk, fruit, veg and toilet roll. So you don't buy a single thing. So you're really going to reduce your packaging. But again, that needs planning ahead, and it's probably more useful if you already have a fridge, freezer and pantry bulging at the seams that actually does need sorting out and emptying anyway. I'd probably avoid that one if you're in the southern hemisphere and in the middle of winter, just in case you get a power cut. But certainly if your weather's okay and you're not likely to use power, it's a great way to have a good clear out. Okay, so I hope that's been useful, and that's the end of this one, and much love and many blessings from my heart to yours.